Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Bible. I do apologize for some glare showing up on the screen here. This may or may not be the last time recording in my van. Haven't whoever was interested in it has not gotten back to me, so I'm probably gonna have to start looking to sell it on my own. But and yeah, I'm trying to all do this last minute, and the angles of light are fucking up everything in here, so this is literally the best angle for my camera to be in, and the best place for me to be for privacy in order to be able to do this. So, without any further ado, because I do not have a whole lot of time, let us dive right in and get into Deuteronomy chapter, I think we're on 24, almost at 34. That's the last chapter. We are literally 10 chapters out from the end of this book. I know I wanted to get this done by the end of this year. Maybe if I bite the bullet and force myself to, I can and will, because not all the verses in here between now and the end are super interesting or I should say maybe like relative, like lesson-wise. But I will definitely discuss what's in there, and if you guys want to read the more boring parts for yourselves, you can. But I'm only going to touch on the interesting stuff. So it probably will not be another 10 episodes to be able to finish this series. Hopefully not. But it shouldn't. It really shouldn't, especially since one of the chapters are incredibly long, and it's I'm not even going to get into it. We are running out of interesting stuff, to say the least. But we do have some interesting stuff today. In fact, it's a little bit more on the positive side than usual, believe it or not. But of course, like always, we are going to begin in the wonderful negative. Because, without the negative, we wouldn't understand what positive is. So we must appreciate the lessons no matter where they come from. We don't have to appreciate how they got here, but, got to respect the process of growth, So, verse 1 of chapter 24. When a man taketh a wife and marries her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. It's stuck. It was very stuck. But I wasn't going to show you all that work. You got to sign up for my OnlyFans for that. You wish. Yeah, I don't have an OnlyFans. So what is this verse saying? Basically, it's saying if a married man comes up with a reason, it doesn't actually give a reason. It says uncleanness. And that's not even referring specifically to uncleanness of mind, uncleanness of body. Does she have STDs? Although that wouldn't make as much sense, to be honest, because you got to remember, if you remember from the last couple episodes ago, virginity is very, 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 very pricey. It comes with an incredibly high cost. Such a high cost that if you're a woman, for those of you who don't remember or haven't seen the episode, literally a passage in the Bible that says if a woman does not have her virginity on her wedding night, then she is to be dragged before her father's house and have rocks hurled at her until she is no longer alive. Yeah. Fun shit. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure where the uncleanness is coming from. Maybe she has too many freckles. Maybe her tits are smaller than what he thought they would be. I don't know. There's literally no reason given. Everything I read to you is in the first verse, because then it moves right on and goes on to talking about her in the second verse. So no idea why men are allowed to just up and divorce their wives. But it's, he can, for some uncleanness is enough of a reason. Verse 2, and when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. Clearly this uncleanness isn't that big of a deal, because she can go get married to someone else. So it's probably not an STD or something real serious. It's probably something kind of stupid, something shallow. It's like, why did you marry her in the first place if you didn't like that aspect about her? I don't know. This is a sexist society, okay? You never know when the logic is going to be basic or when it's going to be broken. And it's broken a lot of the times. But she can remarry. Whoop-de fucking do, I guess. And if the, and if the latter husband, this is verse 3. If the latter, aka the new husband, hate her, doesn't say why, and I don't know why that word is used, but if he has for some reason to hate her, and write her a bill of divorcement, and giveth it in her hand, and sendeth her out of his house, or, so she gets divorced a second time, if she gets divorced a second time, or if the new husband dies, which took her to be his wife, this is a very strange result of all this. Her former husband, which sent her away, her first husband, may not take her again to be his wife. After that, she is defiled. For that is abomination before the Lord, and thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. What's the logic? I do not know. I do not know. Why can't the first husband marry his wife again after he divorces her and she's been with another man? I don't know. But it's an abomination and it messes up the land, according to Yahweh. No psychological reason given. Hey, what if... Because sometimes it happens. Sometimes people get divorced and then they actually end up back together again. What is wrong about that? What is wrong with that? If they're genuinely getting over their differences and they're saying, hey, I actually really miss you and I like these aspects about you and I see that you are trying to be a better person and I admit my faults and I see you admitted your faults and I would like to, I still miss the dreams that we had when we were together before. Can we perhaps get back together and work these things out? Why does Yahweh have a problem with that? If both parties are mature enough to work things out and get back together again after a divorce and marrying someone else and then that not working out for whatever reason, whether it be death or divorce again, it honestly does not make any sense. And this is pretty much the end of this little portion of the chapter, because it goes on to a little bit different subjects, slightly related, but not talking about divorce anymore. And where are the verses about, women being able to divorce their husbands? Well, I'm sorry, but they do not exist in the Bible. Which is like, it's interesting to me because, I mean, with my very conservative Christian parents happen to be the type that, and this is not a popular type, just to be clear, but they were the Christian type who believe, excuse me, that's better. They were the type who believed that divorce was wrong and bad, even though it straight up allows it in the Bible. And they believed it, well, my dad believed it so vehemently that we left churches over that shit. We got into church drama over that shit. Well, he did, more specifically. Despite it being an okay thing in the Bible. But, I don't understand how Christians can feel okay about this. Like, I guess it's because of how rooted it's in with this Judaism cult. Because this Judaist cult is very, very sexist. It's great that Christians are growing up. I mean, Christianity has been an evolving religion. I think that's part of the hope within it, is that it has so much truth in it that the truth is kind of what's pushing the rest of the religion to evolve and change and to discard the bullcrap. But it's a very long and painful process, and the fact that some king slapped all this crap together with the good information of Jesus and what little else is there in the New Testament, because it's mostly just Jesus' stuff that's good in the Bible. Mostly. Other good stuff there, I'm not going to get into that. Because that's what we do right here, piece by piece. But Judaism is not 100% negligent of their women. We gotta be fair, So let's move on to the next passage, which is actually kind of positive. It's actually there's a few little bits here and there that are kind of random, but we'll just take these one verse at a time. Verse 5, when a man hath taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he hath taken. I am not 100% sure what all this entails, because this is the only information on this rule that we have in the Bible. But I'm down with it, because to me, it sounds like, hey, if you get married, you get a whole year's worth of a honeymoon. That's what I'm hearing in here. And that could be wrong. A lot of my literal translations could be wrong here. I mean, we are taking it at face value, but, God is not the author of confusion, so, we're testing what he has preserved for us through fallible and argumentative scribes and kings and members of the, the Council of Nicaea that put the Bible together. Certainly none of those were corrupt men with self-interests in mind. Verse 6. But yeah, anyways, that rule sounds awesome. That's a big two thumbs up for me, actually. That sounds fucking awesome. If you don't have to work for a whole year, you free support or whatever, because you get to be on a full 1 year honeymoon with your brand new wife, that sounds freaking awesome. I don't know who's paying for that shit, but Doesn't sound like it's the groom or bride. But hey, sounds nice anyways. All right, verse 6. No man shall take the nether or the upper milestone to pledge. He hath taken a man's life to pledge. All right, I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure what that means. I know it has something to do with borrowing, and we're actually, there's some other verses on that we're actually going to come back to and talk about, which I find kind of interesting and worth discussing. Even though these aren't things we do anymore, it's just an old school thing they used to do, which is interesting, and we'll take a look at. But this particular verse, I have no comment on. So moving on to verse 7, I almost really approve of this verse right here, because it's so good. It's so good. Almost so good. And here's the verse. Verse 7 of chapter 24 in Deuteronomy. If a man be found stealing any of his brethren. Oh, so close. If any man be found stealing any of his brethren of the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him, or selleth him, then that thief shall die. And thou shalt put away evil from among you. This is the punishment for Israelites making slaves out of each other. Merchandise out of each other. I'm not quite sure how that might be different from selling, just straight up selling them, making merchandise of them. I don't know, maybe renting them out. I don't know. But basically, God is saying the punishment for slavery, for which I agree, is death. But it only applies to Israelites enslaving other Israelites. It does not apply to Israelites enslaving other nations. And we've had multiple talks about that on this channel and this series already. It's popped up multiple times elsewhere. Might have even been in the last chapter. But we are going to have a little bit more on that coming up as well. But yes, if you actually read the Old Testament back to back, slavery is 100% allowed. Not allowed to be taking slaves from your own fellow Israelites. That is punishable by death, according to this verse. And boy, do I approve of that. But it's a race thing. And if you're not part of the right race, you're in trouble. Now, the next bit, spicy. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Well, actually, no, yes, I am, because it's only 2 verses. I thought it was going to go on a little bit longer than that, but they get so random with these little spurts of, we're going to talk about this for a verse, then we're going to talk about this for 2 verses, then we're going to talk about this for 1 verse, and back and forth. It's fucking annoying sometimes. It doesn't make any sense why they would write things this way and leave out so many details about why. Why would you do it this way? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you why we want you to do this. I'm not going to give you the logic. Just here's the law, the rule, and follow it, and we'll come up with a punishment later that's not even in the Bible. Happens a lot, unfortunately. But that's how it goes when a religion is this old, because it's written by men, and people don't want to let go of it. They don't want to realize that this is all man-made bullshit. Oh, but what spicy things does God have to say? Take heed in the plague of leprosy, that thou observe diligently and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, shall teach you, as I commanded thee, so ye shall observe to do. I highlighted this in green because, to be fair, there is a passage that does discuss what leprosy looks like, not necessarily how to treat it, but more so how to identify it. And that's great. I mean, it's too bad God couldn't give them the cure for leprosy then. That would really help prove that Israel was the one if they were the first and only ones to come up with that cure. I don't think they were. Definitely not back then. And God did not want to give it to them at this time for whatever reason. But then we have the next verse, where God says, "Remember what the Lord thy God did unto Miriam by the way, after that ye were come forth out of Egypt." What is that talking about? Well, there is a little story in Numbers chapter 12, going from verses 1 to, I believe it's 16. And that story, I don't think I covered it too well at the time. I don't really remember. But I certainly don't remember reading it quite like this before. But I had to go back and look at it real quick for refresh my memory. And it was actually rather interesting. It's a rather interesting story because in it, both Aaron and Miriam are challenging Moses' authority. For some reason, specifically regarding him marrying an Ethiopian woman. And God punishes Miriam. Supposedly, God punishes Miriam by striking her with leprosy. And it's all because they challenged his authority. And that's what is being referred to here. So God is saying, yeah, don't you dare challenge my man's authority, because might strike you with leprosy. Might strike you like I did Miriam. Might not strike you like I did Aaron. Why was Aaron the lucky one? Why are the women getting the brunt of it? Like the women, yeah, men do get punished here and there, but Aaron is getting. The men are usually considered the more responsible, because women are considered in the Bible to be weaker and more susceptible to sinning. So why is, according to God, this version of God's opinion, why is the more susceptible human that would be more susceptible to challenging authority, why are they getting punished and not the one that knows better? Supposedly. Yeah. Bullshit. But yeah, that's basically what he's saying. Like he's telling him, yeah, don't challenge my authority or give you that leprosy that I haven't given you the cure for yet. But, of course, Moses magically prayed to the Lord, and then the Lord cured her after a week. So maybe Moses did have a cure for leprosy. Or maybe he knew how to make it look like someone had those symptoms. Or who knows, it could have been a whole ruse, and Miriam was pretending to challenge his authority and pretending to have leprosy, and was wearing powder or whatever to look like it, and was just helping maintain the ruse. Who knows what was actually happening there? We only get what Moses wrote down and passed on, and we don't know if he lied or not. Because that does happen. That does happen. Not everyone starts religions with the best interests in mind. We come to the next bit, which is talking about lending to other people. Borrowing. And yeah, we've talked about that before regarding interest and stuff like that, but that's not what's being discussed here. This is actually like if you're borrowing something more material other than money. And if you're borrowing, let's say you're borrowing a coat from your friend, but your friend, he wants a guarantee that you're going to give it back. So for you taking his coat, he takes a pledge from you. You give him something meaningful to you that guarantees that you're going to return that coat to him. And these are God's opinion on it. Thou shalt, when thou dost lend thy brother, verse 10, when you let your brother borrow anything, thou shalt not go into his house to fetch his pledge. That means you do not get to pick out what he lets you keep while he's borrowing your coat. It's going to be a really nice coat. Let's say. Clothes were a lot more valuable actually back then too, so it's actually a very fitting example. Thou shalt stand abroad, and the man to whom thou dost lend shall bring out the pledge abroad unto thee. So they have to pick, or if you're the one lending out, if you're the one lending out the coat, you don't get to choose. Oh, I'd like to hang on to your Xbox while you borrow my coat. You can't do that. They have to choose the item of value in their house to bring to you. Who knows? They might really need it. If you choose, let's say you choose their gun, or back in that day you choose their sword. It's like, hey, that's my protection. I need that. And they're saying, yeah, don't do that. I kind of give that a thumbs up. It does have to be like from what I understand, I don't remember a passage that says that pledge has to be something meaningful or worth something, but that's usually expected. It's supposed to be something of relatively same or higher value than the thing that you are borrowing. So it could be another coat that's just of a different style, but he wants to borrow yours for the occasion, or whatever, or he lets you borrow a I don't fuck maybe lets you borrow an axe or something. I don't know. And if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. I'm not sure. That's I'm not sure what that means. Because if you're poor, how can you afford any kind of a thing to lend to someone that they can sleep with? That usually is referring to a human. At least that's what I would think. It does actually. Well, no, it actually doesn't. It doesn't specify. In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment, and bless thee, and it shall be righteous unto thee before the Lord thy God. Yeah, it doesn't specify if you can lend out a servant or an animal as a pledge. But you're not supposed to sleep with it, whatever it is. Silly rules from silly times. And then we have the next verse, verse 14. Thou shalt not oppress an hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren or of thy strangers that are in thy land within thy gates. So slaves you can beat, because there's a whole verse about that. Seriously, look that up. You are allowed to beat your slaves just as long as they don't die. But when it comes to hired servants, people that are, I guess, more like employees, you are supposed to treat them nicer, even if they're not fellow Israelites. Wow, how about that? What a surprise! They're not being racist for once. They are being nice to everyone that's a hired servant. Huh. Didn't see that coming. At his day thou shalt give him his hire, neither shall the sun go down upon it. For he is poor, and setteth his heart upon it, lest he cry against thee unto the Lord, and it be sin unto thee. Okay, that's basically don't let him go hungry. I don't know why that makes it so much different. Does this mean that you don't have to be on time with your payments with slaves? Also, that doesn't actually say that you're not allowed to beat your hired servants. It don't technically say that. But you shall not oppress a hired servant. Maybe that covers beatings. But I honestly don't know. Because it doesn't specify. Then we come to this verse, which I approve of. I approve of the logic, but there's a problem with it. The verse 16 says, "The fathers shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin." Everyone is to be responsible for their own mistakes. 100% agree. Amen. Hallelujah. Preach the word. Yes. I will get behind that 100% all damn day. But the problem with that is that in the very chapter before, God doesn't do that at all. You just have to watch the last episode, or just look in the very last chapter if you have a Bible yourself. Right out the gate, in the first 8 verses, God is talking about, this nation of people cannot become Israelites and enter the congregation of God for these many generations. The Ammonite and the Moabite, they have to wait 10 generations. Because their great-grandparents to the 10th power, or grandparents to the 10th power, or whatever, weren't nice to the Israelites. So 10 generations have to pay for their ancestors' sins. If you're an Ammonite or a Moabite, or you're an Egyptian, if you're an Egyptian, you only get 3 for some reason, even though the Egyptians are the ones that had actually enslaved and heavily traumatized the Israelites so much that they have a freaking holiday about leaving Egypt. No, they only get 3 generations of paying for their parents' sins before they're allowed to become Israelites and Jews. So does that get canceled out because of this verse? I don't think so. I highly doubt that. I feel like this only applies to whoever they want it to apply to be honest. Hopefully they apply it, like it should apply to everyone, literally. It should apply to the Ammonite and the Moabite and the Egyptian and the American and the Russian and the Jew and the Arab and everyone. Like, why the fuck not? Why shouldn't it be that way? Why do people have to wait multiple generations before they can join a religion? That is insane. But over here, oh no, anyone has to pay for their own mistakes. It doesn't line up. It's wishy-washy. You're cherry picking when you want to be fair and when you don't want to be. Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. Also positive. Basically saying don't be corrupt, and especially don't take it out on the fatherless or the stranger or the widow. Don't take a widow's clothing if she needs to borrow something from you. Great. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Hence, therefore, I command thee to do this thing. Be nice because people were a dick to you. That's basically what he's saying. Not the greatest logic, to be honest. I mean, of course, it's more from the aspect of remember how you needed help when you were on hard times, and there were some people that helped you. So help others, or maybe no one helped you, and that's why you should help others. They don't spell that out, though. We have to figure that out for ourselves. We have to go to church and find out. It's not spelled out in here for us. Because God just doesn't know how to be straightforward, even though he says he's not the author of confusion, according to 1 Corinthians. This is great, though. We come to the very end, and this is great. I definitely approve of this right here. When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger or the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hands. When thou beatest thine olive tree, thou shalt not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. When thou gatherest the grapes of thy vineyard, thou shalt not glean it afterward. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow. So basically, he's saying when you're doing your harvest for whatever you're taking, leave some behind. Don't be super thorough. Don't go back and look for stuff you missed. Leave that behind for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. Very nice. Very nice of Yahweh. And I don't feel like this is something that would really hurt the economy too badly. If this was something that was done today, or we found a way to enact this in society today, I highly approve of it. I don't know how we would incorporate it into society today. Maybe giving those people some sort of discount, foreigner discount, orphan discount. I don't know. We definitely need to treat our orphans better. No argument there. And for the widow, we got so many of them today, for the single mom. I mean, widow specifically refers to someone whose husband died, but, and why can't they, men are expected to take care of themselves, obviously. So that's why single dads or widowers are not getting handouts. I'm sure some of you are fine with that. But I'm stating that to show the inequality. But otherwise, this is honestly it's a good intention. There's a really good intention behind it. In this case, it is a good thing, I think, and is probably one of the most pure and best things that they've said within this entire chapter, perhaps. Maybe besides everyone should pay for their own sin. But that is the end of that chapter. And now I must go, because I only have a few minutes before I must leave. And so I hope you enjoyed today's episode and the twisting, winding, strange things the Bible has had to share today. And hope you will join me next week. If you see this before Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. If you see this afterwards, which you probably will, then I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. And until next time, my friends, stay safe and farewell.